You know, think about it, because like if you were immortal, if we lived, if there was no such thing as death, and we all knew we were going to live for eternity, what incentive would there be to do anything now? You could say, fuck it, I'll wait 30 years, then I'll try something.
Right.
Because you got zillions of years, you know. So I think that's what makes life. That's what makes life so special is the fact, and I think, you know, you reach a point. I think you can't tell young people that. You know, when I was 20, you know, you couldn't tell me that. You know, one day I was going to wake up and be 52, but one day you are, and what that's what works for me. You know, it's like, you know, you got to take what's going against you and then put it, you know, in your favor. That's why I try to, you know, I try to make the most of I can out of every single damn day, you know, and because, and even when you do that, you know, and that just makes time go faster too, you know.
It does. You're right. You know, it's really funny when you're young. Time creeps by. You know, you're 16, then of another lifetime you're 18, then you're 21, and then you blink, and you're 30.
It goes by in blocks, man.
It does.
Like,
it really does.
And having a kid, really, you know, I mean, I got a 12-year-old, and it's like when I see her, you know, she's really turning into a beautiful young lady. She's getting taller, and you know, it really does not seem that long ago that I was holding her in my arms as an infant, you know. I mean, you know, so that would have been 12 years ago, but, you know, 12 years come and gone, and you know, 12 more years I'll be in my 60s, and so the time is now, you know. It's and the song you just played, Won't Give It Up, there's a little line in there where I said, just look around, the time is now.
Yeah.
Got to make a stand for something, ain't settling for nothing. You know, tell me, are you really satisfied? Do you think that it's too late to try? Maybe for you, but not for me.
Right.
It's never too late to try. You know, coulda, shoulda, woulda, man. You know, it's like, we started off this talking about, I brought up, you know, that cliche line, you know, what's the meaning of life, you know, and what's it all about? Well, in my opinion, a lot of what it's all about is live your life in a way where you don't look back and say shoulda, coulda, woulda. Do it now. Do it now, because, like, okay, you know, this is strange too. You know, it's like, I haven't heard a lot of talk about it, but we're leaving the OOs. You know, the 2000, the 10s, I guess.
Yeah. We're
okay. This is
decade.
This is 2010s. So it's like we're exactly, we're entering a new decade, which really it's a milestone of sorts, I think. And it's like, so I was driving thinking about this, coming back from a show last week or whatever it was. That hit me. It's like, yeah, you know, we're closing out a decade. I guess it is just a number. I mean, you know, what's the last 10 years? It's but in this case, a decade, and
well, just to blink an eye ago, we were celebrating Y2K, the end of a century, and then another decade.
Exactly. So I personally look back at the decade, and I was pleased that I was able to say to myself, okay, this last decade's been really good for me. I put out 4 albums, and I was just listing in my mind all the achievements and things I had done, and I was glad I'd done it. I was glad that I could look back at the decade and not go, fuck, I just pissed it away. You know, I just wanted another 10 years, like on Pink Floyd's, bringing that up again, when they're talking about concept albums, Dark Side of the Moon.
Right.
And then one day, 10 years has gone behind, no one told you when to run, you missed the starting gun, you know.
Right.
The song Time, I think it is, and it's so true. You know, it's it's sad, nobody should have to do that to look back and go, man, fuck, 10 years I didn't do shit. I got to get my act. It's your own fault if you look back at it, because, my God, 10 years is a lot of time. You tell me you didn't even attempt one dream or one challenge, and I know people like that who year after year, decade after decade, nothing changes. They're just content to just stay where they're at. I guess, well, if it makes them happy, that's fine. But here's something else I wanted to bring up, and I want to get some ideas on this, because thinking about where we're at. Okay, we had the 80s. Okay, okay. Let's go back to 60s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. Okay, and now we just finished the 00s, I guess. That's what they were calling it, the hundreds. Okay, now we're entering. Somebody tell me if I'm totally screwed up, if I'm just making any sense. But we're entering a decade. What are they going to call this decade that we're entering? Because it's you can't call it 80s or you can't. It's like there's no O after it. 60s, 70s, 80s, because the next year is going to be 2011. Then 12, 13, 14. The next decade is going to be teen numbers. See what I mean?
Well, decades
until
are
we
often defined
until we enter, and then after 2019 will be the 20s again. Then we'll be into 2020, 21, and then the decade after that, 30. So 30s and 40s and on and on and on. So what's this decade going to be called as far as a number? You know what I mean? What are we going to call it?
Well, music is often. Decades are often defined by the music.
Well, yeah, but you know what I'm saying, though? I don't mean.
Like, what are we gonna call it? What do we call?
Well, I don't mean like number wise, because we're not going to be able to call it. You know what I'm saying? You have the 50s,
you can't call
the
it
60s,
the turn of the century.
The 70s, the 80s, the 90s. Okay, we're finishing the hundreds or the 00s or whatever. What do you call this next decade as far as a number?
I got a challenge. Hey, somebody go Google
teens?
that real quick.
Am I making any sense?
Yeah, somebody go Google that real quick. I know what you're asking. It makes sense to me. I don't know what it would be called.
I know, right? And I wonder, but it's just a matter of time till somebody in the media comes up, just so that, like, they label, okay, Generation X or whatever, They're going to have to come up with something to call the next decade, because, okay, this one goes to 11. It's the Spinal Tap. 11. Well, you can't call it the 11, because after 11 you got 2012, 2013. What are you going to call it? The teens? See what I'm saying? Am I making any sense? Am I making any sense with this?
That is really that's a really good question. I don't know what it would be called. Well, the year before Rob's next album. Well, that could work too.
Because we tend to label our decades, 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. What are you going to label this decade?
You got the millennium, and then you've got.
See what I'm saying?
The tens. You wouldn't call it the tens.
No. Is that what you call it? The tens?
Would you call it the tens?
You know what? You might be getting somewhere. You might be close. Yeah.
The tens.
Well, does that make sense though? 11,
it
12,
doesn't.
13.
But here's the thing: it doesn't roll off the tongue, right? Like you say, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and so on and so forth. It rolls right off the tongue.
Right.
When you say it'll be the teens, the first two numbers don't count.
Yeah. See? Okay. Here I am again.
Okay.
These
guys are googling it. These guys are googling it. See, I love my viewers follow instructions.
Okay, 1910 was the teens. Here I am again. Is that Lee?
That's Lee. That's
okay,
Lee.
And that Lee might have it. That's what I was thinking. I was wondering if it would be the teens. So, that might be it. The teens.
Or Deb might have hit the nail right on the head by calling it the modern depression.
but Lee, I got to say though, I was thinking the same thing Lee was thinking, but it's not teens up until 13. See, 2011 and 12 aren't teens. Those aren't, or
those aren't teens, but and again, again,
It's not teen until it ends with teen. 13, 14, 15, 16. See. Maybe we should just smoke a joint and forget about it. Maybe we're thinking too much.
You know what? Yeah, maybe. You know what? Let me. I need to go crack open another cold one, and what I need to do. This one's about. This one's. I got another tall dead soldier here.
Yeah.